The Psychopath Test, A Journey Through the Madness Industry by John Ronson. Best-selling author of Them and the Men Who Stare at Goats, two titles you're probably all familiar with. Psychopath Test, I believe, came out in 2009 or 10 or so. Let me just double check. I think that's right. 2011. So this is a book that I was actually really excited about getting, and I dove into this and was very disappointed by Chapter 8, The Madness of David Shaler. What this is about, the premise of this book is great. I would love, maybe somebody else could take this premise and write a proper book on it, just not John Ronson. Them, Adventures with Extremists, which I'll link at the end of this, that book really embodies his tone. I like some of the subject matter he covers, but he covers it in a really weird, kind of underhanded way. To give you an idea, he comes off as, and you guys probably all know the guy that you were in junior high or high school with, that would pretend to be your buddy to try to get dirt on particular people, and then run to the other, whoever he perceived to be the cool people of the moment, to be like, hey, you're never going to believe what these guys believe, or what these guys think, or what they're saying. And just the classic instigator, where you just causing trouble. So in Them, he went to different extremist groups, and it was fascinating. Some of the stuff he uncovered was, he really exposed that a lot of these guys kind of had a bum rap about like the Ruby Ridge incident. He does a really good job of giving that a much fairer hearing than it had received in the mass media. On the other hand, though, the tone of it all is that very much that wink, wink, nudge, nudge, aren't these guys kind of nuts? And, you and me, we're watching just how nuts these guys are up close. So that kind of tone is really off-putting. If John Ronson watches this, take notice, buddy. Your style is really off-putting. Anyway, his Psychopath Test is, the premise of it is that he is going to look into, he's heard rumors that the leading CEOs in the corporate world are psychopaths, that are clinical psychopaths, and that their psychopathy is actually what makes them good at being corporate CEOs. And I found that a compelling thesis. So I'm like, this is interesting. So he starts going around and asking some of these CEOs if they'll take this test, and gives them the classic, I think it's the 20 question psychopath test or whatever it is. And meets with some of these guys and gets some of them to give some pretty candid information. But it's almost like along the way, he starts to realize, like, wait a second, I like the cool people. I want to be with the cool people. And what I'm doing is exposing that the cool people that I adore and that I want, that are paying me to write this book, are most likely psychopaths. So I can't really complete this thought, because if I do, I'm not going to be invited to the cool dinner parties anymore. So it's like suddenly, about 2/3 into the book, he shifts directions and really starts going after soft targets. And for those who know, David Shaler is a former MI5, MI6 agent. I don't know British intelligence that well, but that came clean about a lot of corruption in the, kind of was a whistleblower about a lot of corruption within British intelligence, along with, there was a female agent too, and for the life of me, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but the two of them made the rounds, really exposing a lot of the dirt on British intelligence. And then he kind of went through this weird meltdown, and I'm not sure if he underwent a sex change operation, but it was a lot like the Chelsea Manning thing with WikiLeaks. Very bizarre. So in chapter 8, he all of a sudden switches gears and starts going after David Shaler, which is really bizarre because it's not really, it almost seems kind of shoehorned into the rest of his work. And he has this weird graph about, David Shaler's belief in 9/11, about July 7 was an inside job about, the British, equivalency of 9/11 on 7/7 bombing in the subway. The 9/11 planes were holograms, and that he's the Messiah. Now, I think if you were going to explore that, that's really the subject matter for a totally different book. Because to me, David Shaler exhibits the classic signs of a mind control victim or a gang stalking victim, probably of British intelligence, that to discredit him wholly, they did a full frontal attack on the man's mind, as evidenced by his current behavior. So it's really, I think it's really unfortunate that Mr. Ronson kind of takes that and runs with it, because this is obviously a very troubled guy who is a legitimate whistleblower, and instead he chooses to devote a fair amount of pages to really just making fun of the guy. And that, again, it's kind of like, see, I'm one of the cool kids, that kind of thing. So that's the tone that really is off-putting about his stuff. I'll hopefully get around to Men That Stare at Goats too, but it's his tone is what really makes his books kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you're done, because for the good information that you got, there's also this kind of a nastiness to it that again kind of feels like that schoolyard instigator of, hey, don't these guys believe stupid stuff? Isn't that funny? Let's laugh at them. So is that kind of element that seems a little, opportunistic. And especially his attack on David Shaler, I thought really detracted from the book and really made the last third of it almost impossible to read, because it was just such a departure from the original material and the original thesis he set out to explain. So anyway, the disappointing Psychopath Test by John Ronson. Don't recommend it unless you just want to read the beginning and just get an idea of it. But this was so disappointed. I was really sad, and I hope maybe somebody else out there can take that concept and run with it in a better direction, because this had a lot of potential. And I'm curious, any of you who've read this, what your take on it is. But there you go, Psychopath Test from 2011.